Hello there, YouTubers. This is Epicmcpe of Immortal Fantasy, coming to tell you a little bit about how we started the server, what the server was all about, and show some unseen footage of the game. Let's get started. So, just how did three guys come together to form the largest Pocket Edition server in the world, beating out servers like Lifeboat? Well, it all started when BLINDTAIL, DRAGONLORD, and myself met up together and we decided to form a medieval Pocket Edition server. It was a very strange idea at the time, and I think that we did not think anything would happen, although a couple of our friends would be able to join in and play. So we set it up, BLINDTAIL set it up, and Gungamoor, who was Dragon's friend, and myself all joined on this server, and we decided to start building. And using my previous knowledge from PE building, I started building the spawn, which is what you now see today, and we started building out from there. I kept building and building around the spawn as the server developed, and within the moment we went live, we had a few people that were our friends joining in, and next thing we know, they told all their friends, and within a few months, we had thousands of players. Over time, we had over 2 million players, unique users with different IP addresses, and we had over 10,000 forum posts, and we were #1 in the world for a period of time, as seen in the vote pictures. Here's just a few beautiful photos of the server that if you played on it, you would definitely remember. So after BLINDTAIL, DRAGONLORD, and I founded the server, BLINDTAIL went towards the technical side in making everything happen, whereas I started running the entire website, the Kick, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube accounts, as well as building and administrating everything. And DRAGONLORD played often as a user so that he could help monitor that. We then ended up getting lots of moderators who came on as our staff, and they were able to get special privileges and help out with us on the server. We were up to 18 at one point in the vote. Eventually we had almost 40 of them listed, and the three of us, Blind, Dragon, and I, kept together throughout the whole process of Immortal Fantasy. The server was packed at all times, and every time essentially we had to do an update, we would update, and then I would go on and do spawn updates, design the place a little bit better to adapt the needs of the players who were on the game. We developed an insanely complex system of P-shops, shops, bank accounts, iCloud items, so that players could farm and form factions, as well as trade, collect money, store money, and buy resources. We had dozens and dozens of factions, and many players would play actually for multiple hours each day. So a lot of people ask me, what is it like to be an administrator? So to answer this question, I think it has to all start with the intention of the server. So it literally was just going to be a fun thing that the three of us created and just went on so that we could create our own roles and build things. And over time, it just formed into this massive group of tens of thousands of people and a total of over 2 million users. We were having 8,000 unique users a day come on, and the analytics were going crazy. So it went into something very detailed, and I had to keep up with the fan art, the atmosphere of the game, and I had to essentially create Immortal Fantasy as a world so that it could literally be lived in by the players, from everything to concept art, drawings, designs, advertising, photos, forums, memes, all kinds of things that I could design, and then a general theme for the server that took place in the form of a color scheme as well as designs, so that all of the buildings look very similar and everything keeps a very similar look, so that the players, wherever they are on the world, are able to be immersed in this essentially world. World building took a lot of time. It developed over multiple years, and a lot of the people on the forums would create myths and stories and facts about the server itself, and they would even play their own games, form their own factions, and people would play 8 hours a day on this. So, as an administrator, I lived in the administrator house, which only the admins and the moderators had access to, which was a castle very far off. The players do not know about this, and it had hundreds of thousands of blocks bought off, and I lived actually there, as well as my house, which was along the property, which I am showing a picture of now. That house was very detailed, and it was a miniature castle, and that's where I actually had a place on the game that no one knew about, so that I could go to. How did I build all the things? Well, I would actually go invisible when I was an administrator, fly around, build everything, and then I would go out of invisible so that people would just see these builds come up randomly in the spawn, and they would not know how I would be there doing it. I would also go on about 6 to 8 hours a day for 3 years to moderate the chat, to play with users, and to interact with everybody, which developed a big kind of fan following of people. As soon as I would come on, would be crazy messaging me, following me, teleporting over to me if they had the ability to. And this gave me a drive to continue to help the people that are on the server that need it, as well as be there as an administrator and a sort of formal person who's there from an official standpoint from the server, so that people feel like the server is caring about them. And I want people to feel that the server is definitely caring about them. And that was something really important to me at the time. So I started building more things, and as the server expanded, we opened up to a creative world, and we also opened up new warps like Darkshire Arena or Woodford, and this allowed players, in addition to the Serpent, the Town Hall, the PvP arenas, and the town in general, people could then have a more immersive experience. And there is some footage and photos of me actually building the Darkshire Arena, which was inspired after a Roman-style fort, and then the new spawn, which I had the idea to create a parkour spawn where people could start in a mine, a dwarven mine in Gungamoor, and then parkour out while reading signs with hilarious comments that I put on there to begin the server and start into it, which I think is a really good experience as a first-hand impression for new users coming on to the game. BLINDTAIL essentially ran all of the technical things, and I could not do this without BLINDTAIL. The entire thing was run by BLINDTAIL, done by BLINDTAIL. He was the magic behind the scenes that no one really they just took it for granted, because no one really noticed how much he did, and I became sort of the creative face of the server. But every time something went wrong or there was a crash, BLINDTAIL immediately fixed it, was talking with me on the phone, and we were communicating. So he is secret, and his identity will never be revealed, because BLINDTAIL is just this guy who can do literally anything Minecraft related. So that's where we will keep that. I was able to go on quite often and actually play myself or join in with other people, and it was a really fun time to play, and eventually it just got too much and we ended up having to shut it down, which unfortunately we were actually in the process of creating a new world on Gungamoor. It would have been a new world that I had created a while ago with a PvP arena that I'm showing footage of right now, and the PvP arena was one of my most favorite builds, but no one was able to really get on it other than the first time we had a dozen players or so go on. We unfortunately had to shut the server down because Minecraft kept updating and they kept converging as Microsoft kept coming out with new programs and new codes, and it took up so much of our time. So BLINDTAIL would have to constantly be recoding things and doing everything online, and I would have to be keeping up with hundreds of messages a day, and it was very trying on both of our schedules. So we eventually decided to shut the server down, and we eventually decided to shut it down, which shutting down forums with thousands and thousands of posts and people who are on there all day long was very difficult and hard for us, because some people had spent the good part of their last 3 years playing on the server, and to this day I get dozens of messages each year over time that talk about starting up the server again. And as of now, that will never happen, but I'd like to think that Immortal Fantasy would like to have a reunion or something where a lot of the people can go back on, or at least go back on a forum and maybe reopen the website for a short bit, and I think it would be really cool. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I know there'll be a bunch of them, but thank you again, and this has been an adventure, and I'm truly blessed and excited to share this with everybody who played.